Southern football, SEC football, might know the colors to be the University of Alabama Crimson Tide and the University of Florida Gators. And they were playing that weekend for the SEC Championship. And those of you that follow SEC football know that the University of Alabama won. But we also know that Alabama is not just the home of SEC, Atlanta is not just the home of SEC football. We also know that Atlanta is the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so you might be asked, what's the connection between football and Dr. King? Well, we'll see in just a few minutes. Sometimes we see something and we say, wow, how did that happen? Not knowing that the seed was planted some time back. And today we see things happening that resulted from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and before. And our president today is the best example of a seed that was planted so long ago, the results happening today. So back to football, into this football season. Almost 10 years after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the University of Alabama and other southern schools had integrated student bodies. But no SEC football team had a black player on it. The legendary Coach Bear Bryant saw great athletes, black athletes, leaving Alabama to go to play in other schools, only to come back to beat his school. And so Coach Bear Bryant saw athletes for their abilities, not for their skin color. But he wanted African-American players on his team. And so in 1970, he scheduled the University of Southern California, the SC Trojans, to play at the University of Alabama in Alabama. On September 12, 1970, the USC Trojans handed a big defeat to the Crimson Tide, 42-21, and to make things worse, all 6 touchdowns were made by African-American football players. The next year, Alabama was allowed to recruit their first black scholarship player. And by 1973, a third of the team starters were African-American. And within a year later, all of the SEC schools had black players on their rosters. Since 1892, the University of Alabama has had 22 conference championships, 11 national championships, and has produced 96 All-American football players. But in the 75-year history of the Heisman Memorial Trophy, the University of Alabama has had 0. Not until this year. Last month, the University of Alabama had its first Heisman Trophy winner, Marting, who is African American. Now we think, how did that happen today, right? Well, back to what I said earlier. Sometimes we see something today and think, wow, how did that happen? Not knowing that the seed was planted some time ago. And I find it fitting that during football season, right now, we're celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, that the University of Alabama, who led the SEC to bringing black football players onto their teams, has its first Heisman Trophy winner to be an African American. And it wouldn't have happened if not for an African American Baptist born in Atlanta so many years ago, devoted his life to ensuring civil rights. There are a lot of things that we do today that happen as a result of seeds planted 40, 50, 60 years ago. And it's good that we take time out of our day to recognize those who came before us. Thank you.